Welcome back to Building Families in the Faith. I'm Brian Johnson, and this is my lovely wife, Rebecca Johnson, and we're thrilled to be with you once again, talking about the family, marriage, and child rearing. So glad you're here.
Absolutely. Thrilled to have you.
Last week we talked a little bit about love and respect, the need for the husband to have respect from the wife, and the need for the wife to have the love from the husband. And we, of course, showed Ephesians there, and then didn't get to 1 Peter, but same truths are showed there.
Mm-hmm. Today we'd like to really kind of get a little more detailed, particularly in the area of respect. Respect is something that is no longer taught in our churches, shockingly. It's not taught in our homes. It's certainly not taught in any of our schools. We do not see respect, not any respect for others, our neighbors, leaders. There is no respect left. And this is a worldwide problem. Yes,
we're now in a society that everything is whatever we feel like doing or however we feel like being treated. We can't hurt anyone's feelings. And because of that, we're lacking on our responsibilities, and then also on the respect that the authorities, especially the God-given authorities in our lives.
It's interesting. There was a poll taken, and between men and women, women would prefer above anything else to not be left alone or unloved. Men, on the other hand, have no problem with that. Whereas 74% of men would prefer to be respected rather than loved. And we have mentioned we mentioned last time, the fact that you could argue you haven't told me about child rearing, and yet we have, because we have 3 sons. We have no daughters. We have daughter-in-laws, but we have no daughters. And as a mother, I had to come to the understanding that my sons prefer my respect over my love, and that is something most mothers cannot handle and do not know how to do, and it creates extreme tension with your teenage children and adult children as well. So this is a really important topic.
Of course, we need to love them as well and respect them, but the man, 75% basically would prefer, or the respect is more needed by a percentage of 75% than the love is. And the opposite is for the wife, for the women, that the love is more needed, 75% is more needed than the respect itself.
Absolutely.
And of course, we should be respecting mutually each other and loving each other. And we talked a little bit in the past about learning to speak your mate's love language and showing them the love, and of course that applies to our children as well. But like my wife said, this week we're going to focus a little bit more on the respect, because you can find a lot of books on love, you can find a lot of books of 5 love languages and all that kind of stuff, but very little is written about or taught about respect today.
Yes, I want to mention a book. There's now one for men only as well, but this one is for women only, by a Shaunti Feldhahn. It's Feldhahn. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. Again, we don't know this author other than we've read the book. I got it for free in a box of things from a lady, and I was dividing up the items with my daughter-in-laws, and I'm a book lover, as you can tell if you're watching us. Anyway, I grabbed the book and I read it, and it was amazing. It's a great companion book without meaning to be, for the book Love and Respect, and it gives you a very, very much more practical approach to this idea of respect for your husbands. And there's quite a number of ways we can show respect, and we don't, and we do it quite by accident because we don't know. We have not been taught for generations now. They called the World War II the greatest generation, and while they may have been very brave, they fell flat on their face when it came to rearing their children.
Yes, unfortunately.
And we're talking now about our grandparents. I love my grandparents. They were wonderful people. But you can see generationally, the World War II generation, while they were amazing in battle, they were horrible at rearing their children. And from that moment on, we just had cascade failure into what it is society is today. And we joke about the snowflake generation that we're looking at today, where every little thing throws them into a tantrum. That's our fault, because that's my children's generation. And we as parents have created the snowflakes. this is the result of not teaching a lot of things, and respect is definitely one of them.
The things that we teach in you about the relationship between your mate is something that you should be teaching your children down the line as well. Of course, this is not applicable when they're 2-3 years old, but when they're teenagers, they need to be learning this way before they get engaged, way before they get married, way before that. They need to be learning, and the responsibility falls actually on the parents, not the church, not the school, not the college, not anything else.
Yes.
It's the church. It's our parents' responsibility. Of course, the church can help there, but it's our, as a parent, responsibility to be training our kids in these aspects of how to relate with your spouse.
Let's talk a little bit, practically speaking, about respect. What are some areas we should respect our husband in, and then equally we will end up respecting our sons in? One of the areas is their judgment calls. You will not always agree with what your husband decides on something, but you have to remember that there is a God-ordained order, whether you're a feminist or not and like it or not. There is a God-ordained order for everything. And guess what? He has to answer to God for the decisions he makes on the family. And if he stands there like Adam did, it was the woman you gave me, God's not going to be like, oh, well, okay, that's all right then. And so sometimes the decision your husband might make, you may not understand the full ramification of it until further down the line. Very often he sees things in a more analytical way because he's not emotional. We are emotional creatures as women. Husbands, men are not emotional. They're analytical.
God created our brains differently, and the way it's connected, the women are more connected actually than the men. The men is a little bit more separated. Our two lobes are separated and does not have the same connection speeds,
right,
honestly, as the wife does. But because of that, it does give the man a more logical, in general terms, of course, a more logical aspect. And I believe God, of course, God created us the way he did. And I believe part of it is that reason, so that we can do the decisions not on emotions, because the heart is deceitful, and we can't even trust our own hearts. So if we're making all our decisions based on our emotions and our feelings, we are going to make a lot of bad misjudgments and a lot of bad mistakes, a lot of bad calls. And so the man is responsible to make those calls, to make the decisions there. And part of it is that's why God created him that way.
Yeah.
One problem is that the men tend to retrieve themselves and not want to have that conflict with the wife. And so
once you've challenged his decision a couple of times, you're going to find the man retreating and refusing to make decisions. And we wonder why we have a demasculinized society. Women have done it. We have told them they are wrong so many times that our men refuse at this point to stand up and make a decision. And then what do? We get very upset. I don't understand why you can't make a decision on this. Well, probably because the last 10 times he made a decision, you countered him with, well, that was stupid. That won't work. Well, let me tell you why. And we need to learn as women to shut our mouths and accept their judgment. Another area is their abilities. And this can be excessively difficult, particularly if you've had children. You know, as a mother, little children have to be told everything, every step. Pick up that toy, pick it up with your hands. Now carry it to the bucket, put it in the bucket, put it in the bucket. And we very often never transition out of, first of all, we're not training our children correctly by doing that, but that's another episode. But we very often never transition out of that. And we do it with our husband. Did you pick up the dry cleaning? Well, you need to go to the store, get the coupon and go. And in fact, we've even made jokes about it. It's become the running comedy on TV, and it's wrong. We are wrong to do this. He can do it. Trust him. It is disturbing how many women, when I announce at our church here in Brazil that we're going to have a ladies' conference and that they cannot bring their babies. What? Well, my husband can't handle the kids for a day. Seriously? Yes, he can.
Yes, he can.
And just the fact that you thought that and you worded that verbally shows how much disrespect you have for your husband. So, our husbands are much more capable than any of us give him credit for. Shut up and let him do his job, and encourage him about it. Brag on him about what an amazing job he's done, and very often much better than you would have done. And there's the truth of it. You just think you're better. Another one is communication. Avoid the use of the words always and never. And I am not saying I'm perfect in any of these areas. I can give you an example in each one where I've screwed up, even in the last week. It isn't easy to respect because it isn't what we need. And so because it's not what I need, it's not what I do naturally. It's interesting because I know a man in the States who is constantly saying uplifting and respectful things about his wife, which is kind of funny because that's not what she needs. But clearly he's filling a role he knows he needed for himself. Women tend to do this. You always say that. Well,
and the wife is trying, of course, with that, she's trying to emphasize something. But the man's mentality is not taking it as emphasis. What he is getting is analytical, and he's going, well, I didn't do it all the time. And in fact, just last week, I blah, 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 blah. And so in his mind, he's no longer listening to what you're telling him. Mm-hmm. He is correcting in his mind, okay, she's lying, first of all. It's not always. And he does not take at all the emphasis you're trying to portray to him. So the words of always or never.
Yes, you never pick
those
up your
do
clothes.
not help with your communication skills, because
No.
your husband is going into that fixed mode, and your husband is going into that defensive mode, and your husband is going into the analytical mode, because that's how we were created. We're more logical in our processing. And so when you start off that way, it doesn't have the effect that you want it to have, just put it that way.
Now, you could have your feelings pretty hurt at this point. But try to slow down. Number one, just spewing off the top of your head is never a safe thing. Mm-hmm. And it certainly is not respectful to anyone around you. Sons, married sons, husbands, brothers. You have a lot of male family members we're talking about here who would appreciate it if we women would control our tongue.
Co-workers too, in church.
Yes, that's true.
Co-workers. Everywhere.
Yeah.
You got to show and learn to have that respect.
In that same communication thing, the constant reminding, did you do this? Did you do this? There is a balance. Sometimes they have legitimately forgotten something. Sometimes there's a reason. So it is all about being careful how you word something. It's my perspective is a nice way to start. From my perspective as a woman, I feel like what you just said was hurtful. I feel like maybe you're angry. So I've put it that it's my perspective, so he understands I'm not lying. Okay, I'm not about to lie. This is just how I'm viewing it. And my feelings, so he understands, oh, she's stuck in feeling mode again. And this isn't really maybe based on reality. And then he can come back and explain, and usually his explanation gives me all the answer I need, and everything's okay. But if I've just jumped in, you always, I've already started the argument, and it usually does end up in an argument, and a husband who fails to communicate with you. Women want to talk.
Right.
But when I've attacked him 110 times in a day, guess who doesn't want to talk to me?
You have to understand that the husband, the wife wants to hear him explain himself. The wife wants to hear a lot of words come out of his mouth. And the truth of the matter is the husband does not want to have any conflict right there. And his mentality is, okay, if I be quiet, I can prevent any conflict. And so by going into, although you don't realize it's an attack mode, and although you don't feel it's an attack mode, but by doing the disrespectful approach, or by doing the always and never approach, what you're doing is you're making your husband, okay, I don't want to fight with her. He's trying to show you love. He's trying to show you respect. And the way he knows to do that is not to fight with you, and so he clams up and he shuts up. And that's the opposite of what you want. And it escalates because now you're mad at him because he's no longer talking to you, and it just makes
it's just
a big
vicious
mess.
Vicious circle. In public, never, ever, ever make fun of your husband. I can even think of an example that I did this week, and I didn't even realize it until I was thinking about today what we were going to talk about. And I had mentioned a certain program on the computer, and I said, oh, he doesn't work with it. That was very rude. He actually does work with that program on the computer. But it is such a common thing today to make fun of men in public. And it is absolutely a sin. It is not funny. There should never, as a Christian, you should never, ever make man jokes.
The majority of
Ever.
sitcoms today are exactly that. And what
One
is
giant running man joke.
yes,
Yeah.
it's demoralizing men. It's belittling men, and of course, if we're not careful, if we're not paying attention, we allow that to infiltrate our homes, and we allow it to dictate how we act as
Yes.
well. And that's exactly what Satan wants. That's exactly what the world wants. And they're putting that out there. They have their agenda.
Yeah.
And
we
they're
need to be aware of
they're
that.
trying to destroy the family through their shows and through their sitcoms and through their humor, and we don't even notice it.
We're going to talk about that even more in detail when we talk about our children, because what you allow your children to watch is
Yes.
so important. We'll talk about that. But, we had a lady once in our church who would openly just tell her husband in front of everybody, you're an idiot. You can't do anything. You're so stupid. Can you imagine? Okay, the man wasn't a very nice man, I'm not going to lie. But maybe part of his bad attitude was constantly being on the defense against his very angry, bitter wife. Do not ever belittle your husband, whether he is standing there or whether he is not standing there and you're with a group of women. You defend your husband in public, build him up, and make him to be the superhero that you want him to be.
And every child thinks he is.
Yes, exactly.
We forget that the respect that's shown there is not supposed to be because of his characteristics or because of his abilities or because of whatever. It's there because of his position. And if I like the president of America or not, I'm supposed to respect him. If I
Right.
like the pastor of my church or not, it doesn't matter. I'm supposed to respect him. If I like my boss or not, it doesn't matter. I'm supposed to respect him. If you like your husband or not, I hope
matter.
you love him, but it doesn't matter. You're supposed to respect him.
I was thinking about this. Down syndrome kids have such potential,
Yes.
but it is only reached when when parents see the potential in that child and feed it constantly. And we're all, in a way, we're all Down syndrome kids. Our husbands, our sons will reach a potential because we fueled it. And there's a reason there's so much about our speech and our tongue in the Bible, because we have a hard time controlling it, and we can be so incredibly destructive and hurtful to the ones we love the most. So respect requires a lot of work and a lot of thinking before speaking. And we really encourage women, let's get on the bandwagon of respect.
That the respect that you show will often transform your man into the man you want him to be anyway. And we often forget that our words are either destroying or building.
That's right.
And when we build our mates, whether the man the woman or the woman the man, when we build our mates verbally, we encourage them, sometimes even without realizing it, and we build them into those things that we're encouraging them about. And the more we tear down, the more we actually make that man or that woman the way we're talking about.
That's true.
So the more you disrespect him, the more he will tend to be the way you're talking about, and the more you respect him, the more he will tend to be what you're showing and respecting him for. And we all need to work on that aspect. Me as a husband need to work on my aspect of yes, respecting my wife, but also showing my love towards her. And every wife, every husband, every wife, we have the responsibility to do our part. The wife to the husband, respect, the husband to the wife, that love that is so needed in both parts. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We hope we were an encouragement, a challenge maybe, I don't know. But hopefully God has used words here to work in your lives. Join us again next week as we continue trying to build families in the faith. May God bless you.